Okay, so let us start. So we'll start with a new topic called vector calculus or the vector analysis. Right. So before starting, right, so you just ask me what are all the important aspects actually that you are looking for, like actually the books or actually any questions you have related to this particular topic, so that actually I can give an exact idea what you people are expecting for. Right. So any questions from you related to this particular topic? Okay. So the fundamental questions is, one is what is the syllabus? And in that specifically important subtopics. Important subtopics. And then the second one is, so this is what are all the books? Right. And the third one is, right, weightage of the topic. Right, weightage of the topic. Right. So any other thing? Previous knowledge required? No, I don't think any previous knowledge is required. Difficulty level? Any other? Approach to, right? Okay. So this topic actually, this is the most simplest topic we can say. And many people actually already studied at graduation level or maybe BSc or actually maybe in engineering also actually. This topic actually we are studying to a greater extent. So that is the fundamental thing that you need to understand. And the weightage of this topic actually is not very high. So it is of the order of around 60 marks. So just a minute. I'll just identify what is the weightage of this. I think so this is around 60 marks. I'll just confirm it. Yeah. So the weightage is, so in 1 year actually 2019 60 marks, 2018 75 marks, I think 2017 I don't remember exactly, it is around 50 marks, and 1 year 55, another is 45. So this is how actually the distribution is. So this is the weightage of this topic. So it is in a medium level, not very high weightage, not very less weightage. So this is actually somewhere in the middle. Usually one topic actually it carries a weightage of the 44 marks, I think. So 44 marks is the usual weightage. It is the average of all the topics. And in that actually above 44 means actually this is higher than the average. So that actually we have to keep it in mind. And the simple, so this is actually the most simplest topic we can say. So this is the most simplest topic. Any prior knowledge if it is required. So that prior knowledge actually I will teach and then I will proceed. But no prior knowledge is required except for the fact that you know how to do the differentiation and you know how to do the integration. So these are all the two fundamental things that you have to be aware, that I don't see as the fundamental requirement, because actually at +2 standard you have already studied that. And also actually I have covered in the foundation. So that is the reason actually you don't need any prior knowledge to start this particular topic. Many people feel that actually calculus is a prior requirement, but it's not, right? So because actually anyway the differentiation and integration we know that. And then starting from the fundamental topic, that is what is the syllabus. First let me list down the syllabus. So the syllabus is scalar and vector fields, scalar and vector fields. Differentiation of vector fields and scalar variables. Differentiation vector fields and scalar variable. And then gradient divergence curl in Cartesian and cylindrical coordinates. Cartesian and the cylindrical coordinates. And then higher order differentiation and vector identities and then applications to geometry in that curves in space, Serret and Frenet formulae, and then curves in space, Serret and Frenet formulae, curvature and torsion, and then principles of Gauss and Stokes theorem. And Green's identity. So this is the entire syllabus broadly if we classify. In that actually what is important, what is not important actually I will explain each and every, right? How many classes it is required? It is a short topic. I don't think not more than 15 classes. So maximum of 15, minimum of 10 classes. Got it? So it won't take much time. This is a very, very small topic. And then actually in this, if you notice, scalar and vector fields, you need to understand the fundamental reason behind the vectors and scalars, right? So first actually you need to differentiate a vector and a scalar. And then actually what is the variables that are involved in the case of the vectors and the scalars. From there actually the concept of vector field comes into picture, right? So this is actually very, very important. And the importance of this topic as a whole actually I will explain. That is, don't look this particular topic as a topic of importance for UPSC. Straightforward actually vector calculus, it may give directly around 60 marks, but indirectly it plays a very, 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 very crucial role in the case of the fluid dynamics. So that is very, very important to understand. Fluid dynamics actually is one of the very, very tough topic, but it's a mixture of two different topics from UPSC, that is the vector analysis plus complex analysis. So these two together, if you mix it, so then actually you are going to get fluid dynamics. Nothing more than that. Fluid dynamics is simply playing with the vector calculus and the complex analysis. So many people actually look at this particular topic as the one of the tough topic and the physics topic. It's not really. That is simply application of the vector calculus and the complex analysis. Now, if you understand from the grassroots of this vector analysis topic, that actually you will feel very, very easy when we deal with the fluid dynamics. So you look at the topic from that perspective. That is, don't look at straightforwardly how many questions that are coming and actually how to answer such kind of question. Don't look at that way. Try to understand the fundamental basics behind this particular topic. and there actually it starts with the scalar and vector field. This definition or actually understanding the scalar and vector fields, that alone gives a lot of insight into this vector analysis topic. So that actually very, very important. But directly if you ask me any question that is coming from the vector calculus, this particular subtopic, no questions comes from this particular area, because this is only the foundation to understand the vector analysis. Out of the entire thing, so next is actually differentiation of the vector fields and the scalar variables. And then actually differentiation of the vector fields and the scalar variables actually is indirectly identifying the gradient, divergence, and the curl. So that is actually indirectly he stated as the differentiation of the vector fields and the scalar variables. And also the higher order derivatives is actually operators. So there is an operator called del actually we define in the case of the vector analysis. And that del operator actually if it is operated multiple times, that is del cross del, or actually del dot del, or actually del cross del dot. So like this actually del square. These are actually certain operators actually we derive from the fundamental operator of the vector identity called del. So that value actually we define, and based on that actually if you operate multiple times as a curl or as a divergence or as a gradient, if you operate it, then we need to identify what kind of results actually you are going to get it based on that particular understanding. And the physical interpretation of that also actually is very so essential to understand. And then actually from there actually what is gradient and what is divergence and what is curl. So these definitions actually you need to understand clearly from the grassroots level. Again, no questions comes from this particular section. But these fundamental aspects are very, very essential in fluid dynamics. What is meant by divergence? What is meant by curl? What is meant by gradient? These definitions you need to understand, physically visualize and see what exactly the meaning of it, why that operator actually giving this particular aspects. So this actually you need to understand to a greater extent, and no question comes from whatever the syllabus actually I explained till this particular point. Not even a single question comes from that particular area for the vector analysis, but still it is very, very important. And then actually, so these values actually in Cartesian and the cylindrical coordinates. But from the fact of the vector analysis, the cylindrical coordinates is not important for us, and we don't touch that cylindrical coordinates aspect now. But even if I teach the cylindrical coordinates, divergence and all, by the time actually when we start the fluid dynamics, we will forget everything. That time actually I will derive a generalized methodology to identify the divergence and the gradient in all the three coordinates. So that is the Cartesian coordinates or the cylindrical coordinates or the spherical coordinates or actually any random coordinates if you define, then how to identify the gradient, divergence and the curl values actually we will derive down the line. When I deal with the fluid dynamics actually I will derive that. But from the vector analysis point of view, the cylindrical coordinates is not at all important. No question we can expect from that particular area. And by default actually we will understand the Cartesian system, and the Cartesian derivatives actually we will be dealing as the gradient, divergence and the curl, right? And then actually higher order differentiation is vector operators operated again and again, maybe with the divergence, maybe with the curl, maybe with the divergence or gradient, right? And then actually vector identities and the equations. So vector identities actually certain identities are there, not one or I think it's the 3-4 identities are there. So those identities actually when we operate multiple times, del cross del cross del, so 3 times actually if it is operated, then what is the expected result? Those are all the vector identities. So those things actually we'll be dealing with. And then actually applications to geometry, and this is where exactly the questions comes. So there are only 2 sections where you can expect the questions from the entire syllabus, whatever is there. Now till this particular point entirely it is simply understanding the fundamentals, and understanding the fundamentals even to solve these problems. And then actually these fundamentals are needed in the fluid dynamics. That is the reason actually we will stress more and try to understand clearly what exactly it is. And then actually this curves in space, Serret and Freinet formulae, and then actually curvature and torsion. This section actually you can directly expect the questions. Right, so you can expect the questions from this particular section. Most of the times actually questions were asked from this particular section. And another important section is the Gauss divergence theorem, Stokes theorem and the Green's identity. Out of all actually most of the times actually you can expect the questions mostly from the Gauss divergence theorem, rarely from the Stokes theorem. But Green's theorem actually usually it's not given, because that is one particular case of the Stokes theorem. So Stokes theorem actually, if you apply it on two-dimensional, then actually you're going to get this particular one. So that is the Gauss-Green's theorem. And this section actually you can expect the question. Right? Questions we can expect. Now in this actually, one important fundamental understanding is actually he didn't mention this, but actually the understanding of the divergence and the curl. So those values actually are essential in the Gauss divergence theorem and the Stokes theorem. So it needs to be calculated for the surface integrals. The surface integral values actually we will be using in the case of the Gauss divergence theorem and even in the Stokes theorem as well. So surface integral calculation. Right. So this is one particular section which is a subpart that is used in Gauss divergence theorem, and from there actually you can expect the questions. So the area of the questions are only the Serret and Freinet formulae, Gauss divergence theorem and the Stokes theorem. Why the questions that were asked from this particular section, as I said earlier, UPSC strategy is they don't touch the fundamentals, but without understanding the fundamentals you cannot solve the advanced aspects. So advanced aspects only it will be asked. So that means actually this entire syllabus is only to understand this. And then actually the questions will be asked only from this particular section, but without understanding this actually you will not be able to solve. Very rarely for 10-point markers actually you can expect the vector identities. That's it. So this is the important aspects of the syllabus, and the importance is around 60 marks actually you can think of. Got it? Any questions on this particular aspect? Any questions? Right. So now coming to the books. So books actually, which book to solve for? So there are two sections actually I have given. One particular section is the divergence theorem, Stokes theorem and the Green's theorem. The best book is the B.S. Gravel. Higher engineering mathematics. Right. And then actually this is the B.S. Gravel actually, that section of the Gauss divergence theorem, Stokes and Green's theorem, Stokes and Green's theorem, and then actually vector identities, so vector identities, and then actually very little Serret and Freinet formula. So this is actually very little portion is given. This is not sufficient. B.S. Gravel is not sufficient for the section of the Serret and Freinet formulae, or actually the curvature torsion. So applications to geometry section, right? It is there as part of this book, but actually that is not sufficient, or actually the standard is not sufficient. And for that actually I have prepared my own material. So that is the Indian Civils material is useful for that. And this material for the Serret and Freinet formulae, so we have a separate section, so that actually you can refer. And for the rest of the syllabus entirely, so all these theorems and all the fundamentals, vector identities and the scalar field, vector field, very good insight actually it will be given in the B.S. Gravel. So B.S. Gravel plus our material. So these two together actually will serve the purpose completely 100%. Got it? Any questions? Any questions? Okay. Right. And then actually, so this is the syllabus part, and coming to the questions. So what are the books? So this was answered and this was also answered. And weightage of the topic is the 60 marks. And also I think the questions were actually distributed, I think, among that. So let me show whether it is distributed or not. Yeah, it is distributed, right? So does previous questions actually comes from the BS Gravel? Yeah, sometimes actually you can get the questions from the BS Gravel, but there is one more book called, I think, Shanti Narayan. So there is actually one small book, actually vector calculus, dedicatedly that is there. And in that actually I did notice that actually some of the problems that are coming directly from the UPSC. So that Shanti Narayan, actually there is a small book, simply the vector calculus. So that actually you may want to buy. So, but actually it is this much size book, but every part is actually related to the vector calculus only. But I don't think actually you need to solve that much of number of examples, because actually very huge number of examples actually he has given. That book is dedicatedly for the vector calculus. The return on investment will be less, because you don't need to solve that many number of. But if you are clear with the concept, you will be able to solve all the problems, whatever the standard they give in the UPSC. From BS Gravel, whatever you solve it, those models actually it will cover. Got it? Any other questions? Right? And also actually, this is actually, you cannot ignore this particular topic, because you can expect the question number 5, question number 6, question number 7, and question number 8. So in all these things actually, it will be given for the 15, 15, 15, 15, like this actually it was distributed. That means actually it is distributed across all. Sorry, this is only for 10. So if it is 10, question number 5, then actually other way actually somewhere actually it will be added to 20. So this is 20, and then actually 15, 15, like that actually it was distributed. So that means compulsory question actually if it is given for 10 marks, and then actually the rest of the question is distributed around 60 marks. Usually they get it. Usually around 60 marks. Sometimes it's more than 60, sometimes it is lesser than 60, but on an average it is 60. Got it? And that is how actually it is distributed. So previous knowledge required, you don't need any previous knowledge, because we will start from the scratch, and basic differentiation and integration, that is sufficient. That anyway we covered as part of the foundation. And the difficulty level actually it is easy, or in fact very easy. So this is actually very easy topic when compared to all other topics. You can say all other topics I don't say, because actually numerical methods is far easier, and linear programming is far easier, and ordinary differential equations is also easier. So that is the reason actually when compared to all those topics, actually this is also comes under that particular category. But very tough topic is actually two topics we can say. The first is actually fluid dynamics, that is the fundamental topic, and that is very tough we can say. And then the second one is complex analysis. Actually to some extent it was tougher, but rest of the topics is actually very easy. But in the case of partial differential equations, the questions are actually very lengthy, and the models are actually very high. So number of models are very high. That is the reason actually you need more time to solve the problems that are related to the partial differential equations. So not only the question length, that is actually one question actually it may take around minimum half an hour to solve certain questions that are like that. Minimum half an hour you need to spend it. And the other side is actually number of variations also more. Number of variations being it is very high. Hence actually you need to spend more time to prepare as well. So these are the two different disadvantages in the case of the partial differential equations, but still that is also one of the important topic. Even the mechanics and fluid dynamics actually it was distributed across all the questions, but to understand that you need the fundamental knowledge of the vector calculus. That is the reason actually you need to spend more time on this vector calculus. Got it? And then actually approach is actually you don't need any special approach. You just follow my classes, that is sufficient enough, and you solve all the questions from the BS Gravel, and then actually you look at the previous year problems. Then actually you should be able to solve almost all the questions. So what is your question? So sometimes this optional looks lengthy, covering all topics. Yeah. So but actually as I said earlier, so as Amita said, right, this optional is actually lengthier, but return on investment is more. Like actually other optionals actually they may prepare quickly, but they won't get this much of the score. If you notice for the past few years, only the score in mathematics is very high when compared to others. So it needs time. Obviously you will get more score, but other options actually it may not be this much of time, but actually obviously lesser than the current score actually what people are getting for the mathematics. Got it? So daily, how much time to be allocated for this mathematics optional? Usually, I feel that actually at least 4 hours actually you need to spend. Suppose if 1 to 1.5 hour, actually 2 hours if you spend for the videos, at least 2 hours actually you need to practice. And these videos actually will serve the purpose of exactly as per the UPSC standard, what are all the questions that are expected and what is the concept that needs to be clear to understand or to solve the UPSC problems. Everything will be discussed. But on top of that, actually, you need to practice more. So rather than the videos, actually, you need to practice more and more problems. Then only you will get control on the topic and you will get confidence. So these videos actually will accelerate your preparation to a greater extent. So without these classes, actually, you may take actually, suppose same vector calculus, I will be able to teach entirely maximum of 15 classes. So this 15 hours, clock hours, actually, if you are able to spend, you will get complete control on the topic. But on top of this 15 hours, actually, it will be good that actually if you spend around 30 hours more, then actually this topic will be completely done. So that actually you need to keep it in mind. But on your own, if you prepare without these classes, then actually you need to be spending around 60 to 70 hours. So that is how it is. And if you study at graduation level, then actually you might feel a little bit of easier. But if you don't study, then actually it will be very tough. Or actually at least understanding the vector calculus will be very, very tough if you don't study in your graduation. But it basically, it needs a lot of physics insight. So that physics insights actually, it will add advantage in the fluid dynamics. That is the reason. Got it? Any other questions? Right? Okay. Now, so first actually, we'll try to understand what is a vector field, or actually vectors and scalars. First actually, we will try to understand what is the difference between these two. And then actually, we can extend the same discussion for the fields, right? Now here, what is a vector and what is a scalar? Can somebody give me an idea what is a vector and what is a scalar? And why do we need to consider vectors and scalars at all? Why there is a fundamental difference between these two at all? Magnitude and direction. Vector, magnitude and direction. But scalar will have only the magnitude but not the direction, right? Okay. So if there is a difference, that is actually if vector needs magnitude and direction, then scalar needs only the magnitude, then why do we need to differentiate this? And why do we need to separately classify this? And what is the use of this classifying? Or actually, is there any limitations of having the direction or actually not having the direction? So that is agreed. Vector, so any vector actually it always have the magnitude and direction. Any scalar will have only the magnitude. Then let it be there. Then what is the problem with that? If having direction, in what way actually it will disturb us, or actually in what way we need to treat that as separately? So if we need to calculate the work, actually we need to multiply the dot product that is there. But actually, why we have to do the dot product? See, fundamentally, the problem with the vectors is actually, it comes from the fact that the entire mathematics or actually the entire algebra of the scalars actually is no way applicable for the vector. That is where the fundamental problem lies. Suppose actually I will give you one simple example. Suppose actually I say that this pen is having a mass of 100 grams, let us say. And then actually I'll take my cell phone and then actually I say that this cell phone is having a mass of, let us say, 300 grams. 300 grams and this is 100 gram. If I ask you what is the total amount of the mass, if I ask you, immediately you say that actually it is a total mass of 400 grams, right? So it is just a 400 grams of the mass. Actually, you are simply saying that is 100 plus 300, actually you are adding it. That is very, very easy. And then actually, suppose if there is a block of mass here on the ground and I am applying a force of 100 newtons here and I am applying a force of 300 newtons here. In the case of the pen, actually it is 100 grams and the cell phone actually it is of 300 grams. Total actually we are saying that actually 400 grams. Suppose actually 100 newtons of the force is in this particular direction, 300 newtons of the force is actually in this particular direction. What is the total force? So can I call this total force as 300 plus 100 is equal to 400 newtons? Can I say this way? Right? But here also actually the same wording actually we are using 100 grams and 300 grams. The total is 400 grams. 100 newtons and 300 newtons actually, but we are not saying that it is not equal to 400 grams. This is where the problem lies. So exactly this not equal to 400 grams. This is the problem to be addressed. So we actually, by common sense, actually, we can conclude that actually this is not a valid equation at all. So that means whenever they, so then actually why it is not valid? Because actually we learned actually the addition of two different things, actually it is coming out to be 400. But the same addition actually we cannot apply it here. The fundamental reason behind that is a magnitude actually, so a physical quantity which is associated with its direction. So when we specify it, that is 100 newtons of the force in this direction, 300 newtons of the force in this direction. That means the wording is not complete unless I specify the direction. Suppose actually, if I say that actually this is 100 grams of the mass, then actually, so you feel that actually there is a complete information, you are satisfied with it, that is the mass of this block is actually 100 grams. Suppose actually, if I say that actually I am pushing, then immediately you feel that there is some deficiency of the information there. In what direction you are pushing? Immediately you will ask that question. In what direction you are pushing? That means you are feeling that there is a deficiency of the information. The deficiency, you are thinking that actually it is the direction. Suppose actually if I say that I am pushing towards you, so towards you is a direction there. That means actually if I specify that I am pushing with a force of 10 newtons towards you, if I say that, then actually you feel that actually 100% information is conveyed. And that quantity where it is essential to be conveyed the direction, that is what is called as a vector. And where there is no need of specifying the direction, simply suppose if I say that 100 grams, so you feel that actually 100% information is provided about this particular block. So in that case, actually we say that this is a scalar. So a scalar by definition, right? A physical quantity, all are these things actually the physical quantities. Quantity whose description is complete, whose description is complete only with its magnitude. Magnitude is called a scalar. And the second one is the vector is a physical quantity whose description is complete only if we specify both magnitude and direction. Is called a vector. So that means there are two different things actually that we need to be classifying. Suppose actually, so in our analysis actually we always deal with the physics. Physics actually they classified all the physical quantities to scalars and the vectors. The reason being the same algebra whatever you use for the scalars, it is not applicable for the vectors. That means there is a different way of analysis, or actually a different way of addition, different way of subtraction, different way of multiplication, different way of division is needed to deal with the vectors where there is a direction that is involved. That means to deal with the vectors, normal algebra is not applicable. So this is the problem. As I said earlier, 100 plus 300 is equal to 400 in the case of the normal physical quantities, that is the scalar quantities. That is what is the normal algebra. But 100 newtons plus 100 newtons, 100 plus 100 newtons plus 300 newtons is not equal to 400 newtons. It's not normal algebra, right? So this needs to be defined with a different algebra, and that algebra is called as the vector algebra. So that means we need to redefine all the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, right? But do you think actually these are all the only 4 operations so that we need to define? Suppose if you notice clearly, in the case of normal algebra, so we have defined addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. But in the case of vector algebra, so we define addition, subtraction, dot product, and the cross product, but no division. No division is there, and multiplication actually 2 different ways. So, but in this particular case, actually, we have only one type of multiplication and there is a division. But here, actually, it's not that way. On what basis, actually, we will decide this? When we define algebra, why we have to define only the 4 different operators? Why can't be 5th operator? Actually, why can't be only 3 operators? On what basis, actually, these operators will be decided? Any idea? So these operations are actually decided based on the applications to the society. Or actually, for us, actually, we need certain operations which needs to be simplified. That is the reason actually we came up with 4 different types of operation. 4 types of operation based on the application. Based on the application only. This is actually a real-time application. If it is there for one particular operation, that operation is defined with one symbol, and that will be dealing with the physical, so other symbols like numbers. So numbers and these operators together. So numbers and these operators together, actually it forms the algebra along with the variables. So this is the algebra basic definition, right? And the same way, actually, we will be defining the vector algebra as well. This vector algebra, when we define, we have to add 2 different vectors, because actually these are all the physical quantities. Whenever actually we deal with any physics problem, or actually whenever we deal with any of the engineering problem, these are all the physical quantities actually that you have to deal with. And the physical quantities, actually, we always want it to be a measurable quantity. So for measurement, actually, we are associating a definite quantity, which we call this as the magnitude. So measurable quantities. So any physical quantity, you will get a feel only when we are able to measure it. Suppose I have taken this particular pen, and then actually, if I am able to measure the mass of this, let us say it is 100 grams, then actually I can compare the cell phone as 500 grams or the 300 grams. I can say that this is having more mass. The cell phone is having more mass when compared to this particular pen, only if I am able to measure a physical quantity called mass. Exactly in the similar manner, there are many physical quantities. There is all the physical quantities, like actually the physical quantities. So displacement, velocity, acceleration, force, work, energy, charge, angle, solid angle. So like this, actually, there are n number of physical quantities that are there. Now, these physical quantities, actually, so maybe the fundamental quantities, maybe the derived quantities. So the fundamental quantities, if you are able to associate, then actually derived quantities we can express in terms of the fundamental quantities. Now, all these physical quantities, actually, when we wanted to add, or actually, depending upon the scenario, there might be a case actually where you need to add 2 different physical quantities. There might be a case where you wanted to divide a physical quantity. There might be a case actually where you wanted to subtract one physical quantity from the other. But we have to stick to the fact that dimensionally it should be valid, and the same units can be added, same units can be subtracted, or same units can be divided. That is, you can add two different forces, but you cannot add one force and one velocity, right? So that means actually any physical quantities, actually, if there is a scenario where you need to add, subtract, divide, multiplication, right? So based on the applications, actually, we will come up with the operators. Those operators actually in the normal algebra, or actually this is called as a, specifically we can call this as a scalar algebra. So whatever we learned as part of our elementary maths, that is from elementary standard to the +2 standard, whatever we studied, everything is only the scalar algebra, or that is simply called as a normal algebra or just algebra. That is normal addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And then actually at +2 standard, actually we got introduced to this particular vectors. These vectors actually depending upon the application. What are all the applications? The applications are actually, if you notice, the first is actually when there are two different forces, you should be able to add it. So that is what is the resultant force we say, or actually what is the effective force when we apply two different forces. Suppose actually if I am pushing with my hand, and if one more person actually it is pushing with his hand, the sum of these two forces together actually will be the total force, right? Or actually we are pushing oppositely, then actually the difference of the forces will be the effect of the force. That means actually you are considering the direction for the addition, and there is a subtraction as well. Suppose actually one opposite to the other, actually then it is subtraction. So addition also should be possible and subtraction also should be possible. But we don't find any application for the division. So we don't find actually any application for the division, because actually in physics it's not needed. That is the reason actually we have not defined any division in the case of the vector analysis or actually vector dealing, right? So there is no way actually, or there is no way you require this division at all in the case of the vector analysis, or in the case of the physics quantities where the directions are involved. But the multiplication actually it demands two different kinds. What kinds of it is? That is actually, if you say this, suppose actually if I take one particular, this is a block of mass. On this actually, if I apply a force, this is the force direction, and this force actually if you apply on this particular block, and then actually this is being the ground, hence actually it will try to move in this particular direction. So this is moved in this particular direction. Now if you notice, I have applied this force actually with certain angle. Now the entire force whatever I applied, will it be useful in moving in this direction, or actually only certain component of the force that is useful in this direction? Obviously there is a certain component of the force actually that is essential in moving this particular one, and that actually we call this as the F cos theta. So this is the F cos theta is the effective force that is used in moving this, and out of this actually there is a one component of the force actually which will be applied at this particular point, and then actually it is trying to move in this downward direction. As there is no grip here, then obviously actually it won't be moving in the downward direction. And also actually there is a ground here. This ground actually will not allow to move downward direction. This is the F sin theta, which is completely waste. This is no way useful for us, right? So this is no way useful. And then actually there is one movement in this particular direction. Let us say there is a displacement of x, and that is also a vector, and this is also a vector, and x actually it is moving in this particular direction. Now even though if I apply a force of F, only F cos theta is useful and x is the resultant displacement, then actually work can be defined as F cos theta, which is the effective force, multiplied by the displacement will be the effective force. Why it has to be the product of the effective force and the displacement? Why actually when we deal with the work, that time actually why we are calling this as the product of the force and the displacement. Force and the displacement. Why we have to multiply this force and displacement to calculate the work? Why work can be defined as only as the product of the force and the displacement? See this, suppose actually if I wanted to compare, so if I wanted to compare two different aspects, suppose actually I take one particular case. Suppose actually I have taken this particular pen, and this pen actually I moved a distance from, suppose all the way from Delhi to Bangalore, actually I'm walking, and then actually I'm carrying this particular pen. This is one particular scenario where I have done some work. Obviously actually I have done some work. That work actually we are quantifying as this particular pen actually I have taken from the Delhi to Bangalore. And there is one more case you take it. Suppose actually I am trying to push the car from Delhi to Agra, let us say. So Delhi to Agra, I am pushing the car, and that demands more force, but only very lesser distance. And this demands very less force, but actually it demands more amount of the displacement all the way from Delhi to Bangalore. Now in such case, actually, if I ask the simple question, who has done more work? Or actually the person who pushed the car from Delhi to Agra, or the person actually who carried the pen from Delhi to Bangalore? Who did more work in this particular case? How to compare? Right? Then obviously both are essential components in this particular case. So applying more force is also important, and traveling longer distance is also more important. So that means if you wanted to give equal priority to two different quantities, it is always a customary, or actually it is always advantageous, or it is always a meaningful one if you take the product of those two quantities and then actually quantify that essential resultant. That is, the force is important and the displacement are important. Hence, the product of these two will be the resultant, and that's what actually we call that as a work. So now you wanted to compare the product of these two. Whichever is more, they have done more work. Whichever is less, they have done the lesser work. And that's what actually we give a different term called work. So this is work is a resultant. Now, obviously, force and displacement both are important. That is the reason actually we multiplied and then actually we expressed. Suppose actually I take one particular case. Let us say I am trying to push this building. So I am trying to push this building. I am applying very, very high force, but still actually I am not able to move not even a single millimeter. So I am applying all my energy and trying to push this particular building, but I am not able to move this particular building not even for single millimeter. Now in such case, actually, do you feel that I have done any work? Right? Obviously, no work, because actually, so obviously there is no work done. Even though I have applied more force, but that's no way useful in this particular moment of this particular building. That means the effective force is important. It's not the fact that actually you have applied the force, but what is the result of that? Obviously, if you ask that question, if there is no result, then actually you have done nothing, right? So you might have prepared very well, but you have not presented in UPSC exam, then actually you will not get any marks. That is the result. So that is exactly what we are doing it here. So applying the force is not important. The effective force is important. The effective force in making this displacement is important for us. That is the reason the component of the force actually F cos theta needs to be taken. And hence actually this F cos theta into X. So this is F into X into cos theta. And this is what we define as the work. Right? This is what we define as the work. Now, so here actually this convention at many times actually we need this particular one. That is the reason actually they have given a standard convention that F dot X, and it is always defined as F into X into cos theta. And if you notice, F is the force magnitude, X is the displacement magnitude, and theta is the angle between this horizontal line, which is always the X direction, and the angle between the force and the displacement, which we call this as theta. And F into X into cos theta, theta being the angle between the two different vectors. And this is what we define as the dot product, and where cos theta component is useful for us, right? And this dot product actually, is it a scalar or vector? The resultant will be a scalar or vector. So force is a vector and displacement is a vector. Work is a vector or scalar, right? Work is scalar. Why it has to be scalar? Why it has to be scalar? But we were working with two different vectors which are associated with the direction. But the dot product actually, why there can't be a direction at all? Because when we are dealing with the two different directions, there has to be a resultant direction as well, right? There has to be a resultant direction because actually we were working with different directions. In such case, actually scalar product also should be associated with direction, right? Because we are working with the vectors. Now, obviously, as everybody said, work is a scalar. The reason behind the scalar is, why this has to be the scalar is, if you notice one important aspect that is happening here, that is the displacement direction is this one, and the effective force, which is essential in making displacement, is also along the same direction, right? So two different vectors always on the same direction, then there is no need to specify the direction at all, because actually this is always comes along the same direction of the x. Then why there is a need to differentiate the directions at all? Because there is no need, because both are actually traveling in the same direction. Suppose actually if I ask the distance, suppose actually if I wanted to go from Delhi to Agra, then I will go along the road to some distance, again go on the same road for the same distance. If you say, that is completely meaningless. You can say in a single statement, same distance, so same road, travel for the longer distance. Or actually you cannot define, or actually you cannot differentiate half of the distance same direction, again half of the distance again the same direction. If you say, that is completely meaningless. So here exactly what is happening is, f cos theta is also in this direction and this is also in the same direction, then there is no need to specify the direction at all, because this always follows the same rule. Any dot product, if you take it, the effective component, suppose actually if there is one vector here and there is one more vector here, the dot product of this, so this is A and this is B, if you say, then B dot A vector, if you wanted to calculate it, then first actually you will identify the angle between these two. This is the angle theta, and this is the direction and this is the direction. Obviously the angle between these two is this one, and this is the same angle. Now B cos theta is in this direction, B cos theta. B cos theta along A direction. So A multiplied by B cos theta. If you notice, this is always B cos theta is this direction, A is this direction. Hence actually there is no need to specify the direction at all. That's exactly the reason work comes with a scalar. So here we concluded that if at all the cos theta component is essential, that cos theta component will always be in the direction of the other vector. Hence the resultant of the product will always be a scalar. That is the fundamental understanding. And the essential component which is responsible in making this displacement is f cos theta only, not the complete f. So for that actually we have defined f dot x, and that is the reason this operator of the x. So this dot is actually is an operator which specifies the cos theta component. To specify cos theta component, and resultant will always be scalar quantity, not the vector quantity. So that is the reason actually we have defined this dot product. This is a physical application for us. Exactly in the similar manner actually we will come up with the cross product as well. So one more product actually, that is where actually if cos theta is useful, then actually this is how it is resulting. What if sin theta is useful? Suppose f sin theta is useful, then actually we define one more product, that is the cross product, where we call that as the cross product or the vector product, and that needs to be associated with the direction. Now that actually you think over it and then actually try to analyze it, and why we need to associate the direction there. Why can't be in the scalar? Actually we are not, so in the scalar actually there is no need of the direction, but here actually f sin theta, if it is useful, that is always comes with the fact that the direction needs to be associated. Why? That actually you think over it and then actually decide it. Tomorrow actually I will continue that discussion. Yeah, that's all for today. Yeah, thank you.